Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to Chopin Around the World. As today we travel to one of my truly favorite places on the planet, to the Amazon rainforest. I was here for the first time over 10 years ago, and in that trip I discovered something truly magnificent. Until that time, I used to think that classical music can only be shared in beautiful concert halls. Well, how wrong I was. I discovered on that trip that classical music can indeed be shared not only in concert halls, but in small communities in the Amazon River as well. Come with me and let's find out what that first trip was all about. But first, a Chopin Étude.
La música se pertiene en el escenario de Carnegie Hall en Nueva York como en la selva.
Para darle música a los niños me parece un acto muy lindo, muy bonito. ¿Cuándo o por dónde vas a comenzar esto? ¿A qué ciudad vas?
A crowd that is listening for the first time classical music really made me feel that this is the reason why we're here. This is really...
Escuchar. So what could we do? We brought out the piano again, put it in someone's house, and we played one more recital.
In March 2011, for the first time in my life, I decided to change the rules of the game I was so used to and swap the usual concert halls to a new venue, the Amazon rainforest. Leaving behind the familiar audience that normally puts on their nice clothes and buys an expensive ticket, I met a new audience, the indigenous people of Ecuador and Peru living on the banks of the Amazon River. And with this new meeting, with this new encounter, came a change in my life that I did not expect. The people that I met there are an organic part of the rainforest. They depend on the forest for food and survival. They are born, live, and die in the rainforest. The day-to-day practicalities of this trip were difficult for me, particularly for that first visit. I was only too aware of every bug around me, and for several days after coming back, I kept looking at the walls of my home for signs of crawling life. I never had to sleep in a little plastic tent before. The luxuries of our life felt further than ever. Electricity at the flick of a switch, running water, phones, internet, and they quickly also became irrelevant. The biggest challenge upon arrival in a new community was to be accepted. In their eyes, any outsider is treated with a lot of curiosity, but even more so with suspicion as to their intentions. In the midst of petroleum interests, missionaries, tourists with large cameras, and people that want to save the world, most of these communities just want to be left alone. Humbleness proved to be the best tool. The final say had to come from them, and the key to being let in was simply asking for their permission. Do you want to hear some music? They almost always said yes. In one of the first communities I arrived, I met the local school teacher and explained that I would like to play some music. He was only too happy to have his students participate and have them listen to this new music. So I went ahead and set up the keyboard under the morning sun while the children gathered around. When it was all ready, I looked up and with my broken Spanish I introduced myself and I said, I would like to start today's performance with a piece by Johann Sebastian Bach. Well, absolutely nothing happened. No applause and no reaction. The teacher that I had met earlier that day very kindly leaned over and in a soft voice said, Can you please explain to us a little bit more about it? So here was I with an 88-key electric keyboard, a generator, and with lots of help, and yet the most powerful lesson was coming from the people I was playing for. Back in our world, it is enough to advertise a performance of classical music, and everyone more or less knows that this ought to be an experience based on the highest ideals of our culture. But by contrast, not having these ideals taken for granted and knowing that the music I play, and indeed I, can be rejected at any point, made the sharing experience so much more real and so much more alive than I had ever felt before. I traveled back to the Amazon many more times, and I brought more people with me to play music and to teach. With the help of the charity Keys of Change, we even set up music classes, we delivered guitars, and we even had a local music teacher teach regular classes. It was a tremendous personal reward as a musician having my voice, having my music heard by a new audience. I would go as far as saying that this was perhaps the first time I felt really accepted, really heard by an audience. Most importantly, I saw for the first time that the universal message of music remains unchanged, from the stage of Carnegie Hall to a schoolyard in a Quechuan community of the Amazon, to share an idea and to bring people closer together. For those of us that live far from nature like myself, perhaps our music is there to fill in a gap of that missing beauty. The grandeur of the jungle radiated a sense of stillness that I had only experienced through music. To experience both together combined was something unspeakable, and it gave me hope that maybe we can be part of nature without the vanity of having to control it.
That was the Amazon edition of the Chopin Around the World. Thank you very much for watching today's episode of Chopin Around the World. And if you would like to know a little bit more about my Amazon adventures, or indeed any of the music education activities that followed that first trip to the Amazon River, please drop me a line and I'll be sure to let you know. And don't forget to tune in again in 2 weeks' time for the next travel episode of Chopin Around the World. See you all then.